Cross the rainbow bridge of Asgard, where the booming heavens roar. You'll behold in breathless wonder the God of Thunder. Dutchman versus Thor Ragnarok.
Hi, it's me, like John Rhys Davies' less attractive brother. I've just come back from Thor and yeah, okay, I'm a week late because it was out here last week and it's only just gotten to the States because, you know, sometimes when you're living in a backwards part of the world that's called Europe, no, hang on, got that the wrong way around. Sometimes when you're living in the backwards part of the world that's called America, you get your own films a week later than the rest of us. Thor Ragnarok was directed by Taika Waititi, and I must say this is the first time I'm saying his name out loud because I've only seen it written down before, and my god, is it different from the last two. People like to pretend that Thor movies were these Shakespearean tragedies in space with alien Viking gods, but you know, they weren't really. We just pretend that they are because that way we can all be offended at how this one is more comedy with action rather than, you know, comic book movie. Because apparently Taika, or whatever his name is properly pronounced, likes things a little bit more of the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe that James Gunn brought to the Marvel Universe, which is not a bad thing per se. Because Thor 1 was good. Thor 1 is good, and if you don't agree, you have to rewatch Thor 1 because it's a very adequate, you know, getting to know yourself as your true character kind of movie, finding friends in a fish out of water kind of place. Thor: The Dark World, I must admit, is a bit bland. It has its good moments, but it's probably the blandest of the Marvel films. And I kind of like Thor: The Dark World regardless. It just suffers from a huge problem with the main villain not being as compelling as, you know, the guy who's just crossed over to the good guys who was a previous villain. Basically, they wasted Christopher Eccleston. Thor Ragnarok starts off with a bang. It gives us, you know, all the stuff you expected from the trailers, aside from the one bit which we all know, like he's a friend from work. This bothers me slightly because what it gives us is that last time around we had a cliffhanger, like the post-credit scene was like all the evil and mischief that Loki's going to be up to now. But what we end up in the film itself is it just gets completely negated. It's not important to the story at hand, so it takes about 10 minutes to resolve, really. Basically, if you're familiar with the comics, the plot of this film is World War Hulk, which is quite bothersome because it's not Hulk's story in this case, it's Thor's story. Hulk is a prominent character, yes, and he's part of a big part of the movie, and it's great, fantastic, all kinds of good things, praises all around, everybody gets a cap and a feather in the cap. But Thor's story is about Ragnarok, the end of Asgard. But in the meantime, we have to spend time with World War Hulk, which is fine and dandy, but because we were never going to get another Hulk movie because of how Marvel has the things stitched together with Universal. But that's just, to me personally, a slight irritation. I can safely assume that the 99% of you that could be watching this aren't as big as a fat nerd as I am, because, you know, nerds. When people say this is the most comedic of the Thor films and the funniest of the Marvel films, they weren't joking. Oddly enough, it's like the inverse. So there is like non-stop guffaws, non-stop laughter, non-stop jokes, and they keep coming, and I am alone in this, but it just went a little bit too much over the top for me. It just got to the point where I was like, not everything has to be a joke, and credit where credit is due. Sometimes it has really poignant moments where you actually feel for the characters. So I feel that the comedy around it makes the more sincere moments feel a little bit more sincere. It's just that sometimes it's things like side characters having funny voices, and it's like, okay, it's a funny voice, but then it's a recurring character who's going to come back several times in this film. So we're just dealing with that. And I know I might be alone in this, because all around me in the cinema people were going like, oh, this is hilarious, this is like the best Marvel film ever, because after a while they all start looking alike, they all start becoming the same. These, I swear, cross my heart, hope to die, these are quotations of people around me. Oddly enough, people want to be around me when they have no choice. So there's a lot of jokes there, there's a lot of comedy, but most of it works. Like, for me, most of it worked, especially the relationship between Hulk and Thor, because what happened to Hulk in the meantime, and despite being, you think, a two-dimensional, like, point and smash kind of character, Hulk actually gets a little bit more depth. I'm not quite sure who voiced him, because it didn't sound like Lou Ferrigno, so the plot goes thusly. Odin is dying, Hela comes back. This makes Hela more powerful, hella powerful, I could say. Thor and Loki end up on a strange world called Sakaar, they fight Hulk, they fight a revolution, things go around and they fight Hela. That's basically the plot in a nutshell. I couldn't make it simpler if I tried. But what makes this work is the character interactions. I say this very often. What do you expect? It's a superhero movie. The world's gonna end, it's not gonna be actual Shakespeare, so let's try and have some fun around it. Previous cast wasn't that important of Thor 1 and Thor 2. They get like one glib remark somewhere along the start and it ends, because it's good. Thor doesn't really need human characters to be relatable to. He can have friends and friendships on other planets with other beings. It's just that people that did like those characters may feel a little bit more disappointed here. And another point to that is that the Warriors 3, they get very little screen time. They are not in this film quite a lot. I don't even think I've seen Sif, which is weird. Valkyrie was great. Valkyrie's a new addition to the cast. She's brilliant. She's basically like the lad, despite being a lady, but she's more blokish than Thor sometimes, and that's great. Well, Urban plays Scourge the Executioner with a slight more comedic twinge than I wanted, but in the end they managed to redeem his character and utilize it in the way that I wanted them to do it. So that's all good, and Cate Blanchett is deliciously evil. She's just, you know, unashamed. She's the Dark Lord of death, of all kinds of stuff. I must admit this movie caught me unaware, because there's a bit somewhere in the beginning that they dismiss relatively quickly, and I was a bit disappointed to see it not being as fleshed out as it was in the comics. But it loops around. Towards the end, it becomes important again. I was quite pleased with that. And oh my god, if there's one thing the Thor films have over all the other Marvel films, is things look pretty from the get-go. There's a dragon scene somewhere in there, and there's a shot against the firelit background horizon. It's great. There's the Bifrost scene, there is mountains, waterfalls, the arena where Thor fights Hulk, the entire cinematography around that battle alone. The bits in Norway, they go to Norway for a bit, because where else would Asgardian gods go? There's a scene where they track Mjolnir around and it's just gorgeous. Blimey, the soundtrack! It actually uses songs from the trailers. Do you know how often we get trailers that gives us songs and then they don't end up in the movie, and then they had to reshoot all of Suicide Squad and all of Suicide Squad suddenly became a jukebox? Thor actually uses several songs. It uses the Foreigner song, the Immigration song, and there's a reference to a certain movie from the 80s. I'm gonna say which, because as soon as you hear the music you're gonna be grinning ear from ear. And the best thing I love the most, I love synth music, like synthesized the thing in the background that makes artificial music, that makes it sound like it's an actual music but is not. Tom Baker and Peter Davison's Doctor Who had a lot of this, just ambience music in the background that doesn't really need to carry a tune, just, warbles on a little bit. And, Stranger Things uses it, and this film is basically 75% synth, and I love it to bits. All in all, Thor Ragnarok is probably contender for best Marvel film for most people. Not mine personally, and I'll freely admit that's an issue I have and not you. Anyway, I do believe that my lukewarm to okay reception of Thor is offending some of you. Or maybe you're one of those people who think superhero movies should be all grim and dark and brooding and nasty, because I saw a trailer for Justice League in front of this film and that just looks rubbish, so ha. If you just got offended by whatever I just said, there's a lovely comment section down below. You can always find me on social medias. I've got something about Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. And if you click subscribe, you can see my big fat face in front of a camera which is trying to autofocus and making it quite fuzzy from time to time. Because I'm a big fat idiot.